You're listening to WKDW Radio 97.5 and KDWRadio.com, broadcasting from the Bishop West Real Estate Mobile Tower right here in absolutely gorgeous Northport, Florida. I've got a very, very special guest in the house and a first timer for me. I'll let her introduce herself and kind of give some background. But, Joan, the mic is yours.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Joan Morgan. Probably the most I can say is we lived here since 1972, came a few months after Jean and Lorraine Matthews. And at that time, there was 1,200 people in Northport, and you had a choice to leave, which many did.
Yes.
Or else to be maybe dumb enough to stay around and whatever. So we stayed around. And, we've been here for the 50 years. And if you're here for the 50 years, you have to be involved in the development of the city, because it's kind of like, and we share this with the Matthews too, it's kind of like you're the parents of the city.
Yep.
You were bringing up your own kids, but you were also bringing up the city. And this city had, so much potential. When we came here, just to describe how it was, 41 was 2 lanes. There was 1 traffic light, and that was at Biscayne. There were 3 cops on duty between here and Charlotte High School, where my husband worked as a math teacher. So he knew he had only 3 cops to look out for. And the police and the firemen were volunteers.
Okay.
We had a volunteer fire department longer than a volunteer police department, but you had volunteer firemen who, it seemed like 4:00 on Saturday afternoon, a fire always went off. And they went in their work clothes and ruined a lot of their work clothes and put out the fires and did whatever. It's been an interesting life. It was different in the fact that in those days, we could put on any program we wanted. You did not need permits. You did not need insurance, and you did not need police. So therefore, guess what? Hey, tomorrow I'm going to put on a festival. Okay, let's go. And you could do what you want. The Northport, when it first became a city in 1959, it had no intention, and there's no reason why we should have become a city. My husband and I have worked on the history of Northport. We've got Northport dates where we've listed everything. And everyone who's listening, if you have things you want to add to that, contact me, email emjm67@yahoo.com. We are adding things on. We are far from having it all in there and all the important dates and all the important people and all the important events that happen. So please, the history of Northport is very incomplete. We have the book, which I helped with a lot and wanted to work with. And it was a great book. And Marshall Grove did a great job. But it is not the complete history of Northport. And guess what? Now it's over 10 years old. So there's a lot that's been added onto it.
New history,
because Northport is changing every day. We've gone from 1,200 people when we first moved in to now we're the 2nd fastest growing community in the United States.
I think we're plus 80,000 now.
Oh, I tell you what, and that's pretty scary because I don't think there's room for any more cars on the roads, and I don't think people want to see any more cars on the roads. But it's been an interesting history. If I have to sum it up, I'd have to sum it up with the realization that kids live and are here. Because to begin with, when Northport was first developed in that, why was it developed? Why did Northport become a city in 1959?
Let's go.
That's easy. It's easy. It is called money. Okay. And here's the deal. General Development owned us. General Development built it. We were supposed to be Northport, Charlotte. We were supposed to be a retirement community with people from Port Charlotte coming up and all of this kind of stuff. Okay. But guess what? We were in Sarasota County. All of Northport was in Sarasota County. All right. So we were under Sarasota County building codes. Guess what? Charlotte building codes were a lot less strict than Sarasota's. General Development did not want to build the way Sarasota County demanded them to build. And that's why we have such wonderful drainage in some places. And that's still today that we're still trying to recover from. But anyway, here's the deal. If you become a city, you can set up your own building codes. So guess what we do? General Development actually, and some of the people came in the middle of the night And we've talked to some of them. They're brought up here almost in the middle of the night on Pan Am and some other streets, and they put these people in here. They voted actually during their lunch hour. I think if you go back to the records, and basically I will tell you that even the election office does not have them. It was like 20 some people that voted. It was totally illegal. Price put it through. Oh, that's why Price Boulevard is named Price Boulevard. Okay, and he was on the state legislature, and basically a very few people voted us, and we became a city. We're a city. Guess what? If you're a city, you can build your own building codes. So if you look at the first people that were commissioners in Northport, guess what? They weren't elected. They were appointed by who? General Development. Okay, and actually some of their main people were actually the first commissioners in Northport. And they got to build the building codes, new building codes. So guess what? We now have more lenient building codes, and general development makes a lot of money off of this, and we become a city way before we should have. So we were always building from the back and forward. Okay, and let me give you some things that most people don't know, and this is kind of like an interesting one. 1974, John Deere of John Deere. Yeah. Okay. Maybe not him himself, but his representative, when I-75 was going through, what did they want? They wanted to, we could have been Jones Loop. He wanted to build a gas station, a motel, and a restaurant, and that would have been at Sumter. Totally different than we have now. That's when I-75 was going to go through, and that was going to be our biggest exit. All right. Well, guess what? Our mayor at the time, Marge General, who believed in the code of only for the young and or only for the old. She did not want young people here. If you believed like she did that this should be a retirement community, then hail Marge. She did it all. Okay. If you wanted this to be a community of a lot of people and everything else, then she was the one we had to fight, and I was one of her fighters. Okay. Anyway, she said her words were, "Over my dead body, because it will cost 3 more policemen if we had those facilities at Sumter." And my words to her were, "It will pay for your entire police force." Okay. Well, she got her way. They walked away, and obviously, you know, those things were not built at Sumter, but they went down to Jones Loop, and maybe Northport would have been worse than it is now. Okay. But it certainly would have been different if we started off with ours being the lead exit off of I-75 at Sumter. More people would have come into Northport. You might have developed totally differently. Yep. It might have been totally worse. I mean, I don't know. But anyway, those are decisions that were made back when in the 70s that certainly changed our outlook. Another thing, if you want to talk about Northport as a city, you got to go and you've got to say hail to John Zagner-Belney, who was the owner of Old World Restaurant. Him and Christina brought Old World Restaurant in here because John Zagner-Belney started a group, and it was business owners on Tamiami Trail, and he was the one that made it go through that we have all the Mediterranean finishes. It cost Walmart, I believe, $1.2 million extra and all of this stuff. But guess what we had, folks? We have a beautiful Tamiami Trail. We have a beautiful Toledo Blade for the most part, and Sumter. And guess what? We are not the strip malls. We had a few strip malls because they were already there. All right. But we actually have fixed them up quite well, and we had programs to do that. But we were not the strip malls that Port Charlotte and some other areas were noted for. And Northport, you know, is a beautiful place because of it. So, you know, the movers and the shakers of this town did a lot. We worked hard to get schools. That was one of the first things, you know. And Gene Pillett, who was the superintendent of schools at the time, said, guess what? We don't build we don't build schools to build communities. And our words were, you don't build a community without a school. That's true. Further you are from a high school, the higher the dropout rate. And the Northport kids were the pawns. All right. To begin with, before the early 70s, helter skelter, some went down to Charlotte. Someone who knows where they went. I mean, truly, there was no schools. We actually put them almost in a dump truck to take them over to Englewood. And then it came up with a system that back in 1980, Lemon Bay wanted to build a high school. The Lemon Bay High School at that point, what you see now is Lemon Bay High School. That site was basically, first of all, a grade school, then a middle school, but we wanted it to be a high school. So therefore, guess what? We need some more kids. So we took the Northport kids, and Northport kids, what happened with them was, first of all, they were shipped to Garden Elementary up in Venice, right? Then they were shipped over to Englewood for middle school and high school. Back in 1987-88 school year was the first school year they were shipped to Venice High School. And the reason for this change, not because we care so much about these kids and we want to make sure their education. Oh, no, dollars. All right. Venice at that point wanted to have a middle school separate from a high school. So therefore they needed the kids. Therefore they needed the numbers. Therefore they needed the Northport kids. So then Northport kids were bused to Venice High School. So it turns out that our great community leaders like Jean Matthews and Lorraine Matthews, their children never graduated from a Northport school. My children never graduated from a Northport school. Their children graduated from Lemon Bay. Our kids were a couple years younger. They graduated from Venice High School. As hard as we worked, we could not provide the schools for our kids. All right, now we're at a different juncture, a big juncture, because all of a sudden Northport is the place to be. Northport has how many years, decades have we begged for a hospital?
Right, we got it coming. Now we're
going to get a hospital. Now we're going to get a behavioral center.
Yep.
Okay, and now Welland Park is going to get a hospital, and we're going to get another emergency or trauma area. So we're going to become the center or one of the centers for medical, which we never had before. Before this point, if you had a medical problem, you had to go down to Port Charlotte or up to Venice. And we all know the statistics. If you have a stroke, that first hour can make the difference between life and death or permanent sustained injuries. And guess what? It took, for the most part, an hour to get an ambulance to you and then to get you to a hospital. So the hour that you needed the most to make it without severe disabilities was gone, okay? And that's what we had here. But what do we have in Northport now? We've come from a community that basically, and I will tell you at the time, once upon a time, that mayor that I talked about, March General, who her philosophy, this was supposed to be an old people's community, all right? And if you go with that philosophy, she did a phenomenal job. Okay, but if you didn't, then guess what? We had a problem. But anyway, she actually told the churches to vote against the bond issues that had a school for Northport on it. It was down at the bottom of the list. It was a token thing, that's for sure. But when the school authorities found out that, that Northport was on it and she found out, she went to the churches and told them to all tell their commissioners to vote against the bond issue. Okay, that made a permanent rift. The school board people and those in charge of Sarasota schools wouldn't come down to City Hall for years. So we had a lot of mending to do. God bless people like Jean Matthews and some of the others that work. What we need to do, and all of you out there, listen, we need people on the school board. We need people on the county commission. Jean Matthews, who just the other day was given the key to the city and certainly deserves it. He is the only person from Northport who has ever been on the school board. He is the only person from Northport that's ever been on the county commission. Here we are.
Still to this day.
We have the most numbers. Yes, still today. We have the most numbers. We have more people in Northport than Sarasota does, than Venice does, than Englewood does. But guess what? We are the only area that doesn't have a person on the school board or on the county commission. We need people to run for those offices and get in there, and the people in Northport to support them, because folks, we are here now. We are an entity. We are in such a prime position. Go down south. It's not only Punta Gorda, which is certainly changing its motif and everything else and really trying to upgrade. The huge motel that's going to be right at the bridge there. But look at Westport. Oh my gosh, that's going to be a huge, huge area. Okay, then you have Northport. And now north and owned by Northport, you have Welland Park. I mean, go see the new downtown area. Go see the Brave Stadium. Go see all the potential. They are getting a school now. They're getting a high school. A third high school is going to be started in Northport this summer. The first one, obviously, is Northport High School, which came at the turn of the century, basically 2000, 2001. Okay, then we had Imagine School, which is not a public high school, but it is a charter school, and it has, I believe, 200 in the high school, or maybe in the graduating class. Now, I'm not sure the exact numbers, but they are definitely an entity and definitely doing some good work down there for the kids. And now you're going to have one at Welland Park, which is going to be started this summer, and there's going to be a property next to it, which is going to be there for a K-8. You have a hospital coming there. We have tried for decades to get a hospital here. Welland Park's going to get their hospital just like that. Okay, so folks, things are changing. This area is growing massively. I know not everyone wants to see all the apartment complexes and all the growth and all the cars and everything else, but unfortunately, I don't think you're going to slow that down. If we have all these people here, then guess what? You need jobs.
Yep.
You know.
Well, it's ironic that you started this whole thing with talking about how we set ourselves up to be kind of stagnant with growth.
Right.
And leadership saying, no, we like it like it is.
Yeah.
And I moved down here about 24 years ago, and we were still battling that same mindset 24 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it hasn't slowed down. You're 100% correct.
Yeah.
There's nobody that slows this down.
No.
The only thing that slows it down is something in the federal government or economic downturn, something happening like that ends up kind of taking us out of the wheelhouse for a little bit.
Right.
But ultimately, just like in 04, 05, we turned it around, and now we're back on track to be the third largest? Third fastest?
Yeah, we're going to go
third fastest growing. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Well, we're the second fastest growing right now, and that could slow down. But on the other hand, it's not going to slow down by much. Okay, and we're going to be up to 250,000 people. I mean, it's going to happen, and it's not going to happen tomorrow, but it is going to happen. What we need, all you business people out there, here's another thing. Besides getting people on the school board and the county commission, we absolutely need every business person out there to have an internship program. Okay, the kids at this high school, and especially now that we're going to have our third high school, they need internships. They need programs where they can work, where they can get experience, where they can work with the public, where they can get just absolute experience doing whatever kind of job, or finding out this is the kind of job they don't want, period. But every dentist, every lawyer, every medical person, every store, every drugstore, everything, city government absolutely needs to. They need interns at all levels. Give these kids a chance to learn the occupations, to feel part of it. Because here's what we have, basically. We still have a lot of problems, okay? And one of them's with the high school, because we might have had a high school for 20 years, but unfortunately, and I'm going to tell you the basic truth.
Go for it.
If you're the top-notch high school football player, and you know it, are you going to stick in Northport, or you're going to are you going to be transferred to Venice?
You're going to Venice.
Right, because that's where the scouts are. All right. We have a top-notch, super unbelievable cross-country and track team. They are, God bless Coach Fu. They are second to none. They are phenomenal. They do it all. Okay. But football, the coaches are coming to Venice, not down here. It's time for us. We have the talent. Go look at the ones that are on the freshman team, and then bingo, they're gone. Okay. We have enough talent here. Look at the aquatic center we now have. Let's get those swimmers going. Let's get our teams going. We have the talent here. We have the people. Okay. And we need to promote it, and we need to utilize it. And we no longer can say we're second to them. No, we are the ones. We're the big dogs. We're the big dogs now. And it's time for us to prove it. We need to start talking about airports and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of things we need. We need a movie theater. We need a roller skating rink. Northport, and that's one of the committees I was on and I love so much, was our motto. Okay. And which is?
Go ahead.
Can't think of it for a second. No. Oh my gosh. Oh, wait a minute.
Come on. You got me too.
Oh my gosh. And I was on the committee, AA.
Somebody out there is
That's
listening. Chime
that's a
in.
brain freeze here. Okay, wait a minute. Well, anyway, what it's saying and why I was on the committee is we are not a bunch of statues. We are not a bunch of people that have nowhere to go. Okay, you can still make your way. Northport is yours to grow. Northport is yours to develop. Northport is yours to move forward. Okay, because it has not been developed. There is so much growth to happen. What I used to always tell people, if I lived in New York City, guess what? There's nothing I could do. There's no way I could change things unless I had $4 billion. Then maybe I could change something. But in Northport, guess what, folks? You can change anything. You can make this yours. Okay? And Northport is a community which is still developing. I said that when we came here, and as I said, we felt like the parents, that we had little babies, young children. Our son wasn't even a year old and our daughter was only 2. But we also had a town that was almost a baby. All right. Now I kind of think we're teenagers, but we're not full grown. Okay. We still have a lot of way to expand.
Nope. And well, I was looking, and the one thing I found was achieve anything.
Yes, achieve anything.
Yes.
AA.
And then we've also got a city manager, and he's got a saying himself, and I'm trying to remember what that was, so I didn't throw you onto the table with that.
You were not alone. One of his.
What's that?
You were not alone.
I know. Let's see. Oh, it was something he started when he got hired on. My goodness.
Achieve anything, because you can still achieve it. You can still do it. You can still.
And we are. We actually are. That's sort of a goal here.
I mean, I'm a perfect example of it. I mean, not to brag, but the Morgan Center, we didn't pay anything. We didn't do anything. Okay. I mean, and some people pay $1 million to have whatever, but there's so many people that care. Let me give you the example of Gene Matthews and the Boys and Girls Club and all he did for that. If any of you are at the meeting Tuesday morning and the commission office, one family gave $1 million to rebuild the Gene Matthews Boys and Girls Club. Another family, $500,000. Another, the foundation paid another $1 million. So they've got $2.8 million towards the rebuilding of the Boys and Girls Club. All right. Once upon a time in 1972, there was no Boys and Girls Club. There was no nothing here for kids. We have come such a way. This has become a kids' town. Now we have the 3rd and 4th generations of families here, and in business and in stores and things like that. And let me take you back to Englewood, because they're an example and kind of like our development area. When I first went to teach at Lemon Bay High School in 1980, I taught there from 1980, my husband and I did, to 2000. And let me tell you something, a lot of the kids had I hate Lemon Bay, I want to get out of here, I don't want to be part of it. And guess what Lemon Bay is now? Lemon Bay is the 3rd, 4th, and some places the 5th generations of businesses there. I mean, go look at Lemon Bay and go look at the ones that graduated from the school, Ainger Elementary and all of this kind of stuff. All that Hinks Financial and all that stuff. Yep. Okay. Key Agency with the Desquins. I mean, those are the people, those were from my former students. Those are the ones that built the city. They took it from an area where a lot of people wanted to get away. And when my personal children and others were growing up here, we had and used to call it the I Hate Northport. Could hardly wait to get away. Okay. Yes. And guess what? Guess what they found? And this is, I used to say you have to go up to Tampa, get robbed once or twice. And then you say, let me say, here's a place we can go. And kids and writing essays and checking out some essay contests that kids wrote. And what I was always astounded about, and here's from the kids say it honestly, and here's what they say: Northport is clean. Northport is friendly. Okay. You can still play in the woods. All right. People who came from cities didn't have that opportunities. Neighbors didn't talk to you. Okay. And it wasn't clean. Northport is. Of course, they'd say, we go in the woods and we find panthers and all this stuff. So, they're kids. But anyway, there's so many opportunities, and especially with this whole medical center that's coming in.
That's going to change us.
Imagine how many opportunities. And I'm so excited about Jerome Fletcher being our new city manager.
Community with unity.
Community with unity. Yep. Because he has done it. He has taken tragedies and tragic situations that we had, and he has turned them into new programs. You Are Not Alone, which we've worked with them with the Holly's Hope, the teen court now being at City Hall, and they were recognized just yesterday by our city commission. And teen court is a wonderful program. I will tell you, because I had the privilege of working with it as head of the social studies department at Lemon Bay, and teaching history there and getting kids on teen court, and that teen court can change lives. Let me basically tell you what that is. Basically, if you've committed a crime, misdemeanor, whatever, a problem, be it truancy, be it burglary, be it alcohol, be it whatever, fighting or whatever, you can get adjudicated to teen court, which means you're not in part of the juvenile delinquency thing. You don't have a record. Okay. You become part of teen court. You become part of teen court. What does that mean? You will, first of all, possibly be, adjudicated for your crime. You will have to pay. You will have to do community service, and these kind of things. But you'll really feel like, wow, this was something. Then you have to be part of teen court. You will be part of future juries. And it makes you understand that there are consequences. You see it from the other side, and you realize, wow, I could get in more trouble. And why is teen court so important? Because it's now all over the United States and in many other countries. And Katie Self, who started the one in Sarasota, has actually started in many parts of the United States and other countries. She was phenomenal. But anyway, what happens is people understand, and the statistics tell us that kids that go through teen court, the chances of them being involved in any other crimes or any other things dealing with the police or anything else for the rest of their lives is so much less than the kids that are put through the juvenile delinquency program. And the way I say it, if this teaches kids, is this makes them understand that, do right, and then there's consequences and all this stuff. And if this program works and you don't have a permanent record, which is going to destroy you from going into the military, getting jobs in places, and maybe getting in colleges and all this kind of stuff, then this is the program that I'm going to support. So I'm very grateful for it.
Isn't it ironic we're bringing some of these things back that were part of the system before?
Oh, yeah.
And the reason we got rid of them wasn't a valid reason.
Right.
But we're bringing some of these programs back. How many people are fighting with you to get these things back into place? And I know Jerome is overjoyed with community involvement and getting these things turned around, because they're directly connected with what happens in our society as a city. I mean, crime rate stays down. The activity that we have here, crime wise, we're blessed.
Yeah.
And we have a great police force, but this extra little kick is needed.
But I tell you what, okay, and here's some things for the parents. Okay, a few things. Number one, talk to your kids. Get rid of the stupid cell phone. Okay, get rid of it. Social media is killing our kids. Social media is killing our kids, and I don't care how many times I have to say it. I don't care, and I've talked to people that own daycares and that, and they say the parents pick up the kids, have their cell phone. Hey, come on, kid, pull him out, and he's still talking on the cell phone. Okay, put the stupid cell phone away. You can live without it. We once upon a time did.
Yeah.
All right, talk to your kids. All right, there are some basic things we can do, and we can change society. Number one, work with your kids. Balance is so important. Work with those kids. The little ones, have them crawling. Crawl all over your house with them. Sing with them. Singing, music, arts, and that's the first thing we want to cut out of the school budgets, okay?
It is
We
always
need
the
to
first
be
thing.
with them. They need to get oxygen. They need to be outside. They need to drink water. They need to have fresh air. And why can't kids just be kids? Why can't they just play? Why can't they just do things? We climbed trees, we made tree forts, and it was fun. And we didn't, we need to do some of these things. Parents, take your kids camping, do something, be there with them. All right. Listen, another thing, totally. And this is happening because I've talked to parents who have pulled their kids out of kindergarten because of it. Bullying. Oh my, I cannot believe the messages I have heard from one phone to another after a kid. I cannot believe that anybody could do this. And you've got to understand, all of you and parents. Number one, they are telling us, because I go to a lot of meetings, all right, they're telling us that over 50% of the kids today have put out pictures of all their body parts on video or on a phone or on whatever. Let me tell you something. Once they're there for life. Someone's going to find them. All right. Somebody's going to find them, and you're going to be embarrassed or destroyed. All right. Please do not watch what your kids do. Watch what's on the phone. There are apps which you think are music apps, but when you open them up, they're not music apps.
Right.
They are totally not music apps. And I am certainly do not know much about phones and social media, so I'll be the last one to be able to find them. But you must be there with your kids, talking with your kids, being there with your kids. I am so discouraged to go to games and not find parents there cheering on their kids. Okay, be there for your kids. All right. If you are there for your kids, because I don't care if you make $20 million a day, okay, nothing's more important than the fact that your kid turned out okay. The growth and the development and the love you have with your child is the most important. So be there for the kids. We need to restore church youth groups. I mean, we absolutely need to. They have gone down and they need to be built up. Just common decency. We need to do common sense. I was a history teacher. I was the head of the history department. And let me tell you something, I wouldn't make it today because I'd be fired.
Yeah.
Okay. I can tell you, for 20 years being head of that history department, a lot of the people in my department, I didn't even know if they were Democrats or Republicans. Some I knew, some made it too obvious. But for the most part, I didn't know, and I didn't care. Let's just be common sense. Let's talk to people. Let's not hate them because they're of a different political party. Yeah, you can have differences in philosophy. Oh my gosh, that's fine.
Supposed to.
Yeah, you're supposed to. And actually that builds. If we didn't have some differences in philosophy, North Point wouldn't build up the way it has today and all this kind of stuff. But on the other hand, don't make it that you hate each other. We have a beautiful community. We have so many opportunities. We have so many caring people. Okay, another thing, let me go to another avenue because we're going to run out of time. All right, and I'm going to go to the military. Okay,
Sure.
Northport is going to be becoming more part of an overall community of military that's really being developed in Port Charlotte and in Punta Gorda. And I know you guys are going to be part of that because you're putting on a program on May 19th, My Warrior's Place, from 2 to 4. Okay, My Warrior's Place. All right, it's going to be in Punta Gorda. For all you veterans, let me tell you something. For all you first responders, this is for you. It's a 12.5-acre plot of land, and it's going to be there for you. Right now, My Warrior's Place is located up in Ruskin. That one's going to close down, and it's going to be down in Punta Gorda. And they are going to be there as a retreat for veterans, for first responders, because we really need to be there for our first responders. Our first responders go through so much trauma trying to help others. Okay. Anyway, it's there for them. And here's some other opportunities they're going to have. A lot of veterans don't want to go get medical care in that because they have to leave their pet at home or whatever. Guess what? They're going to have places for those pets. They're going to take care of them so that veterans can get the medical help that they need. They're going to have a horse therapy there. So it's a great place. Another place, and you got to go down and see it. And there's going to be a program there. Actually, on the 19th at 2 o'clock, William Gaines Jr. Memorial Park, which is off of Edgewater in Port Charlotte. They are building now a huge tower. And that place has monuments to first responders and to military people, and it is just growing in leaps and bounds. Shannon Messenberg now is in Northport and is part of Holly's Hope, and now she's also the head of the Gold Star Mothers for this whole area. So we have so many people like her and like her husband Mitch and like so many other groups that are really working to help our military, just phenomenal programs. The Vietnam War being down in Punta Gorda and everything else, a miniature of it. I mean, this area is exploding into a huge area to honor military, and I'm very proud of that.
Absolutely.
You've
got some other involvement that you did today.
Yes.
And not that I don't want to keep you going, because the truth of the matter is, I think you probably could talk for a couple hours on the history of Northport and where people should go. And but it's here again, common sense.
Yes.
It's real matter of fact. I want to ask you though about the meeting you had today at the Morgan Center, and I know you talked about the military, but we also have another category that I put out there was autism.
Yes.
And can you talk a little bit about that?
We have some people, and again, WKDW is going to do a program on autism and that, and I'm going to look forward to hearing about that. But we have some people in town, and I can mention her name, the one I worked with today, Susan Owens, and she has been an authority, educator. She has lectured all over the United States, Oxford, England, you name it, written books, has a Mrs. No doll who is just precious. Anyway, autism, she likes to work with the kids that need her the most. And autism is something which we really need to investigate more. We are being told the percentage of kids being born with autism is just growing and growing and growing. And a lot of this, I don't know, I think some of it's probably our foods or this or that or the other thing. Some of the birth procedures, because if you cut off oxygen at the wrong time, you can destroy a kid's brain system for life, and it's sad. But autism is a real thing, and a lot of people have it. A lot of girls are now being diagnosed with it, which was never diagnosed before. A lot of the autistic kids in class go into two categories. The first category, very aggressive, because they're very restless. They're very, they can't understand what's going on, and certainly not there for them. So they become rather hostile and they become hard to manage. The other group is the ones that sit back, do nothing, say nothing, sit in the corner and are quiet. And guess what? A lot of them are overlooked and ignored. Many autistic kids are your greatest math students. They are absolutely phenomenal in math. Wonderful people. You need to, as I was saying before, work with your kids' balance. Balance is important as a baby. It's certainly as important as an old person, because guess what? Once your balance goes, you got some problems. That's when you fall. That's when the hip breaks. Okay. So balance is important all our life. We need to make sure that our brain is actually, both sides of our brain is working together. You have the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. And a lot of times they are not working together. A lot of kids, by the time they enter school, they might be 4 or 5, 6 years old. But guess what? They are basically at the age of 3, maturity-wise, especially the boys. Okay, I hate to say it, but it's true. Okay, so they don't need to be given a worksheet and told they need to do this, 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 and this. They need to be worked with. Your brain isn't ready for the reading level until you're around 6 years old. Now, obviously, some kids that have been worked with continuously or have that exceptional brain ability, they can do it earlier. And yes, you do have some kids reading at 3 and 4 and all of this kind of stuff, which is phenomenal. Give them their due, push them along as much as you can. But for the other kids, we are doing them a huge, huge disservice. We need to be there with them. unfortunately, and I'm sorry to say that, but many colleges are not teaching teachers to be what they need to be in the classroom today to truly understand kids. And the basic ingredient for any teacher is love. Okay. Teaching, like being a first responder, like being in the medical uh, situation, in that love has to come first. If you don't love those kids, if you don't love helping other people in that, you're not going to do your job well. If you take any of these jobs for the money, you're going to be sadly mistaken, because it's just not going to be there. But we need to work with teachers. We need puppet therapy. We need singing. Sing with your kids every moment you can. Sing, dance, as I say, crawling. Do not see how fast you can get your kids up walking. That's not, there's not a goal. Oh, my kid walked at 6 months, so I must be the best parent. No. If your kid is still crawling at 14 months, then maybe you are the best parent. All right. We need them to use, because to crawl, you need to use your left and your right side of your brain. You need to have both parts working together. That's why you got to listen and know that crawling is probably the most important thing, and the thing we should at least try to push for kids to get out of, because it's important. Find a game, find just some magic thing, make a tent in your house where you crawl under or whatever.
Well, do you think that autism is, and I don't want to say connected, because that's not what I'm trying to ask you, but with the early introduction to iPads and video games, I think we're losing left and right brain power there too.
Oh, we certainly are, but autism is not connected with
I
what
know
you do
I know
after
it's
birth.
not. I know.
Okay, it's something that happens
Pre.
yes, and I really feel like a lot of this blocks and that they give mothers and that to stop the pain during childbirth, which is painful, I know, is not helping that child, because if there's any time oxygen is cut off to that child, even for a few seconds, it could be, a total, you can lose brain power for life. And no, autism is not something that's taught and got. Now, a lot of other things are, but it's there. It happens. It's a brain thing, and it happens when you're born or before birth. But let me tell you something. There's a lot of autistic kids. There's a lot of autistic adults that don't know they ever had autism. Okay, because they've worked around it. Who knows? Maybe I'm autistic. I mean,
Right.
Truly. I mean, when you read down some of the characteristics of it, we all almost fit into it. All right. And there's a lot of different degrees of autism. But guess what? It's like every other disability. With help, we can manage it. We can help each other. We can teach these kids at the level they need to be taught at, and not just give them a standard thing. The worst thing we can do is throw a worksheet at a kid and just say, do this. No, we need to work with this kid. The worksheet can come after, There's ways of assessing how this kid's doing things besides a worksheet. All right. We need to really work and be there for these kids. And we better do it soon, because we're losing a lot of them. We are losing a lot of them. A lot of these kids hate school, and I'll tell you what the statistics are, and it's scary. All right. They are telling us now that 1/5 of the kids in your classroom, you have a classroom of 25, that they are telling us that 1/5 of the kids in that classroom have thought about suicide, have actually even done some steps to possibly commit suicide, some self-harm. Maybe it's cutting themselves or whatever. Maybe it's not suicide. And that is an extremely sad situation. We're talking about, more than 1/5 of our kids, what they want to give them, Ritalin and all this stuff, put them on drugs. What else is that doing to their development? All right. We need to work with kids. There's so many things that need to change in education, how we work with them. And I know it's the numbers game. You have more kids thrown at you. Guess what? Each kid gets less time. All right.
Well, and when you taught, what was the average classroom size?
Well, let me tell you something. Back in the 80s, back in the 70s and the 80s, guess what? There was no classroom maximum. I had a lot of kids in the class, and it wasn't always good. Okay. You can teach them, and I've gone with both. I had kids in the classroom, high school history. I had kids that were basically non-learners almost, and probably couldn't read. They would say, oh, the head of that country was the big A word, you know? I mean, they couldn't read. And here they are in high school history. And I had kids there that could teach me, all right, that basically, you know, I would even say, hey, don't, you know, don't give me credit for that kid.
Right.
You take the credit for him. So, and you had all in between, all right? And it's kind of like, it's hard. I can remember one day in my classroom, we're working on the finals, and I'm sitting there and I'm seeing like this one kid, and she graduated almost at the, well, this one kid I had did graduate at the top of her class at MIT, all right? And this other kid was close to the top of the class at Harvard, all right? I mean, we had some really good kids, all right? And I had another kid in there that truly could probably not read a Dick and Jane book, all right? And I'm sitting there and I'm saying to myself, am I helping anybody? You know, I am boring these other kids that truly don't need this. And there's no way I can pick up some of these other kids. I mean, at this level, 10th, 11th grade, on a one-to-one, you know, who am I really teaching for? What am I doing? Who am I really helping? Maybe a couple in between, you know? And then we go down to the other specialized classes, and people don't like it, but some of the schools work. Let me give you an example, Pineview. Okay, you don't get in there until you meet certain criteria. And what have they done at Pineview? They're taking these kids and they leave Pineview not only with their high school diploma, but with an AA. Okay, I mean, it's amazing. But they have specialized and they've tested these kids and they are there. But what about all the other kids? Not all kids should go from, we need more preschool. We need maybe not, you know, maybe, you know, like kindergarten part 1, kindergarten part 2. You know, they're not already going first grade and be given a book and just read. My kids growing up, all right, and I'm not really trying to bash the school system, but they told me they never had a teacher sit there and listen to them read. You know, because they were doing okay. Guess what? They were given a book. It's reading time. You go read, and go write a little report on it. Go do this worksheet. And I'm not bashing the school system because I understand they have a lot of kids and everything else, but we're not doing it. You know, we decided years ago, they decided that every kid has to pass algebra to get a high school diploma. My husband was a math teacher. Not every kid is ready for algebra, or you have to water it down to the fact that it's adding 1 + 1.
Right.
Okay. Not every kid can pass algebra. Not every kid needs algebra to read. Here's another thing we're totally losing out on. How about some basics about how to live? What's a home ec course today in school? If I was a home ec teacher, you can't go with family living. Oh my gosh, you can't go with childcare. You can't go with whatever. You're down to how do we make an appetizer? You know,
I don't even know that they have it anymore, do they?
I don't know what it's called, but basically, you know, it's cooking and it's making an appetizer that you would probably never make. But we need some basics. We need to help kids be able to manage life to fit in society. We need to show them how to do a checkbook, right, how to do an income tax form.
You realize that we don't have a lot of kids who write anymore.
That's right. Oh, I'll tell you what.
How about the homework now that's done by the computer?
Oh, and you can get you can have your essays and you can have your term papers done by artificial intelligence.
They're battling that right now.
If I was going to college now, some of those I wrote, I think I would maybe think about that. You know, I mean, truly.
But it's a true statement, though. It's happening. It's happening right now. At STC, even the community colleges, they're having that trouble.
My grandkids can have a hard time reading cursive. I'm appalled. I mean, I'm totally appalled. I'm going, are you kidding me? All right. How about the fact that I work on some of these programs with kids, and I won't mention it because of whatever, and they're supposed to write their name. They can't. Most they can do is their first name. And I'm going, you know, and I'm appalled. These are middle school kids. You know, these are high school kids.
Right.
And they're Danny or they're Dave or they're whatever. But they don't have, it's like, are you kidding me? I mean, I am appalled at some of this stuff that they can't do. How about making change? You know, I mean, yeah.
They don't count change back to you anymore.
Yeah. We need to get down to some basic, some common, two words, common sense. Things people need. How do you become a good parent? How do you become a good provider? How do you whatever, basic principles.
So do we put this back on parents, or do we keep this in the school system, or try to get it back in the school system? Because we've eliminated it from the school system.
We need to,
And we took it out. Well, and
Yeah.
I'm, kind of bold statement, but we've taken some things out of the parents' hands because of how we built the education system.
Yeah.
And now we're done with that. So are we saying, since the education side is done with that, you do it? But we just took it out of their hands.
we need to all work together and not.
It is a vicious cycle.
It's a totally vicious cycle, and we need to work together. And it's kind of like parents, you don't just produce a child out of accident or wanting to. That child is yours, and that's the most important thing in your life, and you need to do more than find a babysitter for it and give it I saw once, and this was at a FEMA, because we had that this kid was in a stroller. This kid is in a stroller. We're talking little guy. Are you okay? He has a cell phone in his hands, and he knows what he's doing. I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh. I mean, he wasn't totally calling people and all this stuff, but he knew what he was doing.
Sure.
And I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness. No, we need to take I'll tell you the best, maybe one place to start. Okay. Venice once had a group. All right. It was called Venice, under 6. Okay. And here's basically what they said. What we need to do, we need to have a break in society. All right. And we need to start with the babies. And one of the things we need to do is prenatal care. It costs about $1,000 for prenatal care. But if those kids do not get the basic prenatal care and come out with at least a 5-pound birth weight. Now, I'm not talking about the preemie who has the best parents and going to do everything for him and this kid's going to be okay. But I'm saying a 5-pound birth weight. All right. Here's the difference. Most of the kids that do not graduate from high school and the vast majority of the people in prison have one thing in common: less than a 5-pound birth weight. Because your brain cells, okay, did not divide. It cost $18,000 to put a pound on a preemie. All right. Get this kid who's hiding the fact she's pregnant or whatever, get her prenatal care, get her the vitamins that she needs, get that child the best care that he can get so he comes into this world 5 pounds or better, so he has a chance at his brain cells and everything dividing and being good. So,
We've got 3 minutes left, roughly.
Okay.
So what would you tell people to do today if you gave them a list? Parents, let's just go to the parent side.
Okay.
Because there's some basic stuff that parents need to pay attention to that you named already. Yeah. What are some of the basic things that you would tell a parent to do since the schools are not doing it now?
Basically, love your kid, hug your kid, talk to your kid. Okay. Talk to him, find out. The other day I saw a parent, and this was great. This kid came home, and on his social media, a friend of his is showing body parts. Okay. He took it to his mother. His mother immediately called the other parents that were involved in the social media group and talked to them. That's parenting. Okay. That's parenting. First of all, that child trusted his mother enough to know that. Okay. If he did not, maybe he'd think, oh, I better do that. That's really cool. And whatever. But there was the trust. Okay. There was the trust. Don't lie to your kids. They know who you are. All right. Be there with the kids. No kid, you don't have to be perfect to a kid. You just need to be a parent. We all, and teachers, God bless you. You still count. All of us. We are who we are today because there was a teacher, at least one teacher, that took an interest in us and cared for us and changed our lives.
I name about 6 all the time.
I can name mine. I'll tell you that.
All right. Well, this is John Rawlings with WKDW Radio, Real Talk, 97.5 FM. Join us on Monday with Commissioner Debbie McDowell. We're going to be talking in depth about the Warm Willow Springs project, and also we're going to be hitting on the estate's agricultural status. It seems like that's a target right now for a lot of people. So we're going to get the insight from Commissioner McDowell. But join us on Monday. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks a lot for joining in. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Okay, clear.
Okay.